Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Marvel-ous Movie Mondays. Another Monday here with Kelsey and Dill. Kelsey, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Dill. How are you?
Great. I mean, my voice doesn't sound as enthusiastic, but I am excited because we are talking about Daredevil. We, watched Spider-Man: No Way Home. We watched Hawkeye, and we said, "Oh, these are characters that everyone's getting so excited about." And we are not. And I was like, let's change that. Let's watch the show that got everyone so
Mm.
excited about all these reveals and characters that were added. So we're going to go 6 episodes at a time. Actually, we'll do 6 then 7, just because these seasons are uneven, which is just painful. But
Lucky number 13.
yeah, lucky number 13. So we're covering episodes 1 through 6. So if you haven't watched Daredevil, this will probably spoil it for you, even though it's been out since like 2015. So if you haven't seen it, go watch it and then come back here and listen to us talk about it. We're just going to kind of openly just chat about our feelings toward the show. I mean, we don't want to kind of structure it as like a formal review because it's been out for so long. And this is just two newbies catching up with the craze that everyone else has been a fan of for years. So, Kels, just overall, like, what were your thoughts of the show?
Well, I'm really into this character, Dill. I'm really
Cool.
into the character of
Yeah.
Matt Murdock
Yeah.
/ Daredevil.
I told Kelsey before
Charlie
we went on
Cox
air.
says,
I told Kelsey before we went on air that she's gonna kind of steer the ship on this one because I'm not really good at all these names all at once because watching one episode at a time is easy to like digest everything, but watching 6 at a time, some details get lost here and there. And she's the one who has the brain, so she's gonna be kind of keeping us on track in terms of character names, actor
I'll
names, things like
try.
that. So yeah. So what
I'll
were you
try
gonna
my
say,
best.
Kelsey, about Matt
Honestly,
Murdock?
Dill, while you were doing the intro to this, I was honestly having IMDb ready just so
I'm gonna
any
pull it up now. Yeah.
questions we have, we can
Yeah.
just quickly.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I was looking down when you were asking me how I was doing. Anyway, yeah, I'm just
Wikipedia is up.
super amazing. I'm just super into this character. I think that Charlie Cox, the actor who plays Matt Murdock, is like super cool and good. Like this is a really good
Mhm.
role for him, and I'm
I was gonna
into it.
say
Having a good time.
most words out of women's mouths are something else first, and then the good talented part. So I'm glad you're
Oh,
recognizing talent first. Yeah,
yeah, no, I'm not gonna objectify Charlie
there you
Cox.
go.
At least not
Yeah,
so early on, you know.
it's fine. It's a show that lends for it. So yeah. So we as we said, we're covering the first 6 episodes. So again, spoiler
Yeah.
alert is in effect right now. So Kelsey, yeah, take us through. What do we got to talk about?
So I kind of just wrote down like a very general, basic synopsis. If you want to know what the show's about, essentially, we meet Matt Murdock, a defense attorney who has gone blind after an accident in his youth. Lawyer by day, justice vigilante at night. I gotta say, if you like Batman, you're gonna love this show. He
Yeah,
is exactly like Batman.
he is the MCU's Batman. Like I was watching it, I was like, wow, this is just like a grittier Marvel thing. Like this is Batman
Yeah,
for Marvel, and I like that. It's nice to have like that kind of flavor in the MCU because I feel like the MCU, at least since Phase Two on, since Guardians on, really has been mostly like they're action movies,
comedy.
but they're comedies. Like
Mm,
there's always jokes. People go into it for the jokes and to laugh. The Ant
yeah.
Man movies and the Guardians movies, but even the Avengers movies have kind of like had good flavors of comedy, which is awesome. But it's very rare that we see this like bones snapping and people
Yeah.
impaling their heads on spikes. Like that stuff you don't see in the MCU, and I think that's just because it's Disney now, and some stuff is kind of
Mhm.
catered toward a more family friendly audience, which is great. But sometimes it's nice to have just this like break of pace and just like see something that's totally just not the norm for Marvel, which I definitely appreciated stylistically just off the bat. And we'll get into our thoughts about this, the contents of like the story and all that later because I do have some thoughts. I am not one of the like biggest mega fans of the show yet because it is still early on. But stylistically, I was like really roped in early on just because of all the Batman vibes it gave,
Yeah.
especially with Moon Knight coming out. That just feels a little similar. The actual Batman
Mm.
movie coming out in a month. Like it's a good time to be into this gritty comic book phase.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
Mhm.
I think gritty is exactly one of the words I use to
Yeah.
describe one of the episodes. Yeah, really dark, gritty. Like even the humor and the comedy in this show, it's like it's dark comedy. It's dark dark humor because it's
Yeah.
him constantly cracking jokes about the fact that he can't see. Like,
Yeah.
there's this great moment. I was just rewatching episode 6 before because I
Mhm.
needed a refresher before we did this, and
Yeah.
there's this great line where Rosario Dawson's character Claire says like, "Oh, what do you think this is, a movie?" And he's like, I don't really go to the movies a lot."
Right.
And
He's like,
it's like
"Records are fun."
little
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
It's like little quips like that, and like that's kind of the extent. Of course, we
Mhm.
do have a comic relief character, Foggy,
Foggy.
Foggy.
Froggy.
Okay,
Um,
well,
no,
listen, I was
I
very
get you.
close.
Yeah,
Foggy
like,
Nelson. He's
yeah.
great. I love him.
I was gonna say, as much as you said, like, this is a breaking of the norms of the MCU, because it isn't really MCU, it's not really canon, except now it kind of is. Like,
Mhm.
there's still tropes. There's still like the best friend who's kind of just like the lovable sidekick, kind of dork
Yeah.
guy. That's what Ned was to Peter, or
Mhm.
is, I guess. Well, I guess was. Spoiler alert. But yeah, this is kind of
Ooh.
the role he plays with Matt is like that funny sidekick, which I think
Mhm.
is just another fun layer that adds a little bit of levity because it is very heavy. The whole story is very heavy. I mean, like one of the earliest scenes is him just getting blinded, and it's watching a kid cry out in agony over his
Mhm.
blinding. And then episode 2 is just him and his father and like all that stuff, which is emotional. Like it's an emotional show. It's a deep show. So I think you
Yeah.
need some of that levity. And I like how the humor isn't forced. It's very just natural and just the characters themselves
Yeah.
as if they were living their own lives cracking humor. Because sometimes it's like the MCU, it's a little unrealistic sometimes when people crack jokes because it's like, why would they crack jokes in the middle of a battle or this or that? But this one, it feels very natural, the humor, because it's
Yeah.
not as excessive. It doesn't feel like it's written there for a movie. It feels like it's just like these characters' regular paths, ways of speaking, which is interesting for
Totally.
sure.
Dill, one of my favorite like aspects of the show is that it feels like you said, it has like layers. It feels very much like a Criminal Minds
Mm,
like Law and Order SVU type of show where it's kind of like a new case every episode, but still
hmm.
this underlining, story underlining main bad guy who we
Yeah,
saw in episode 3. We got introduced to Kingpin,
yeah, the real
Wilson
one, quote
Fisk.
unquote. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Or the big guy or the boss man, like whatever you want to
Hmm.
call him. But I love how it feels like one of those shows just with the added excitement of a superhero at the helm,
Hmm.
which is super cool.
Yeah, and he's not even suited up yet. Like I like this. It almost makes me feel like it reminds me of like the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. How half that movie he's fighting in that really dumb like homemade costume when he's fighting Bonesaw in the ring, and it's like, no, yeah, because
Yeah.
he's not a superhero yet. He doesn't have this full grasp of power. He doesn't have the resources to make like a cool suit. This isn't Tony Stark material. Like this is him basically with this black like hat that he covers his eyes with, and that's it. Like that's his uniform, and it honestly makes him kind of cool, and it kind of gives an
Mhm.
interesting, like you said, layer to this character. Yeah, I'm interested to see where it develops. We'll get into it at the end, where we think this is going, because I think this is very much setting the groundwork. And I think that would probably be my one complaint, like I said earlier, is just that it's so early on, and because this isn't a mini series, it's not like Hawkeye where you have 6 episodes to tell the whole story. It's like, no, here we have 3 whole seasons. So it's like
Mhm.
5 episodes could be the equivalent of one of these MCU episodes, like because it takes its time, and I think because of that, sometimes the pacing lulls, only because I'm waiting to see what happens next, and I kind of wanted to just kind of hit the ground running, and I know it's not that, so it's just kind of just adjusting myself to the pace of this, and just finding out exactly why all of these characters are important, like every single plot line. Like I get him, I get the stuff with Claire, I get the stuff with Wilson Fisk, but now like finding out how the law firm does tie into it. Let's find out how Ulrich, Ben Urich. I don't know how to pronounce his last.
Ulrich?
I don't know. There's no L,
Ulrich?
but his
Oh,
character, like the press, how that kind of ties in, like seeing exactly how
yeah.
all these different layers, intertwine. Interesting, because right now it feels like much like you said, like there's kind of their own stories and they all kind of like connect back to one another. But like I'm waiting to see a little bit more of like a focus on exactly what the story of Daredevil is,
Yeah.
if there is one, or if it is going to be more of this like case by case basis, and like it all goes back to Kingpin, and eventually there's like a showdown, because we finally got them speaking to one another for the first time at the end of this stretch, which
Yeah.
is, and it's just by phone, so like it's really taking its time to set up the hero versus villain dynamic, which I like.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. And I did some research on him in my Marvel encyclopedia
Yes,
because I
please
wanted
tell us.
to, obviously, I wanted to know everything I needed to know going into this. And it's really like the show is like really comic book accurate. And that sounds like a
Wow,
weird
okay.
praise to give it, being that I mean, like, the most of the MCU is it's very, like, loosely based off of, things that happen in
Mhm.
the comic books, but, like, all the stuff that I read about him, I'm like, "Yeah, these are things that I watched happen," so that's pretty
Right.
cool. So he got his ironic nickname Daredevil early on because he was kind of a bookworm growing up. He wasn't,
Mm.
his dad, the boxer. I forget his boxer name now, but it's like something Jack Murdoch or whatever. His dad always told him, like, I never want you to grow up to be like a boxer like me. Like, I want you to stay in school, like stick to the
Right.
books, like do something better with your life. So he got the nickname Daredevil because he never did anything daring or exciting or anything.
Mhm.
But as we saw in the first episode, he did get his powers from he was actually in the midst of saving a blind man who didn't realize that, the barrels were rolling off the car accident was happening or whatever it was. And because of the radioactive material in said barrels that got to his eyes, that's how he got blind. But it also heightened his sensitive because of, radioactivity, like that radioactive
Mm.
spider we
Yeah.
love in the Spider-Man
Yeah,
stories.
but I feel like this
Um,
more than ever feels more grounded in reality. Like I could actually see someone just being this hyper aware. Like I almost forgot at times that like he had that kind of radioactiveness about him. I just thought he
yeah,
just had really good reflexes because he was blind. Like a lot of
sure,
his stuff
yeah.
is based on like, sensing heartbeats and picking up on patterns of breath, and that's how he's,
Mhm,
kind of determines who the bad guys are or who the people who are lying to him are. And I like that aspect of like this could be any guy. Like this is a guy taking advantage of what he does have rather than using his disability as a disabling. He's now using it as a way to able himself to seek out these things that other people might not. And I
mhm,
like that because it feels much more grounded in reality than something like Hulk, obviously, where it's like this guy's turning into a green monster. That's totally not based in reality. But like, I think of my
sure.
dad because my dad's very much like I like stuff that is based in reality. He likes the mobster stuff and like the stuff about like a good drama or a good like even a good romantic comedy because it's all based in reality. He doesn't love
Mhm,
all the space stuff or the sci-fi stuff or the superhero stuff. He likes Star Wars, which is the one exception. But I think
okay.
this is a show I would recommend to him because I think it's something that the superhero stuff isn't at the forefront. You're not reminded because he's also not wearing a suit yet. Like he doesn't feel like a superhero. He feels like you said, just some guy who's fighting crime. And he just happens to be
Mhm,
blind and have these really great hyperactive sensibilities. And I
yeah.
really, really like that. So like I think this is a good show to kind of break from like the superhero mold while also still being a tad super and staying faithful to the comics for sure.
Yeah, totally. Because it's definitely like you can tell it's just for a more mature audience. I wrote
Hmm.
down a few times, I'm like, there's a lot of like adult stuff happening in this show. Like
Yeah, I mean the
y
blood, the gore, but also like just the way they talk about relationships and sex and all
yeah.
that too. Yeah.
And like the relation like I feel like there's like a whole relationship between like the press and the cops and like the fact that he's a lawyer and like there's all these like different like things happening that,
Yeah.
you know,
And it
we
doesn't always
wouldn't
feel
dare
spelled.
touch on in the
Yeah,
MCU, you know what I
dare.
mean?
I see what you did. But, like, it doesn't feel spelled out to us either. Like, there were times where I had
Yeah.
to keep kinda going back to Wikipedia to just figure out, "Oh, wait, so, like, who's with who?" Because especially early on, there's a lot of characters to juggle at once. I think that was, like, my one complaint is just that, like, I needed to just, like, kinda ease into it more, because it just is so early on in the show, but I was like, this is not something that spells out every little detail for you like some MCU things do. And that's
Mhm.
not a critique on MCU, but again, it's like the idea of making something more for the family versus making something on Netflix, which is more of, I guess, judging by stuff like House of Cards and Orange is the New Black, like at the time when these shows were coming out, like much more adult oriented, which is both a blessing and a curse. And I think in this case is a good thing. I think it definitely
Mhm.
works for the show and setting it apart.
Yeah. And then through his accident that gave him the heightened sense of through the radioactive material, it actually
Hmm.
gave him a specific sense, a sixth sense, if you will, called radar sense. Well, I
Mm.
guess he still only has 5 because it took away 1 and then gave him a new
Yeah, so
one.
it was like an understudy. It replaced
Yeah.
him at
Yeah.
Showtime.
Exactly. Curtain came up and it said radar sense now. So this
Yeah.
just basically allows him to detect the contours of his environment.
Mhm.
So it's like those moments in the show where it really focuses in on the sounds that's happening around him or when it really like focuses in on the breathing with the person that he's having the conversation
Mm-hmm.
with, just like things like that. And I think this really came out in episode 2, which,
Mm-hmm.
spoiler alert, was my favorite episode of the 6 that
I
we
I
watched.
would agree. I think the most recent one, 6, was like I think one of the best ones, and then number 2, yeah, like I think getting that backstory. Sure, we've seen origin stories, but like this one
Yeah.
really kind of painted the picture of who he is, not just power wise and ability wise, but like kind of his state of being and the way he like just carries himself and his like overall mindset on life, which I think is
Yeah.
really interesting. But yeah, tell me about episode 2. Um,
So in episode 2, we meet Rosario Dawson's character, who is a nurse, or something along the lines, person who works in the hospital. I don't think she's a
right.
doctor. I think she's a nurse.
Hmm.
And essentially, like, we meet him. He is lying in a dumpster. One of the neighbors who lives in her building, her character's name is Claire Temple. So one of Claire's neighbors finds him, gets Claire. She starts patching him up, starts, trying to like fix he's got cuts on him, he's got some broken ribs, he says that he might be concussed, like all these things. And she takes a light to his eyes, not realizing that he is a blind man, and is like, she's like, your pupils do not respond to light at all, so either like you are completely brain dead or you're blind, because and based off the way you're not reacting to me telling you your pupils are unreactive, I think you're blind. And he's
Right.
like, yeah, obviously I am blind. And throughout that scene, he's able to kind of tell, like, oh, like, I can like sense like your body, and like and figure out what's going on the same way like I can figure out what's
Hmm.
going in mine. And she's like, like, your fingers have x-ray vision or something? Like, how do you know what's going on? Or like, he smells the guy walking, like, he's like, there's a guy 3 floors up, he's knocking on
Yeah,
doors,
yeah.
we have to get going. And it was just like a great, because like episode 1 was just like a standard pilot, where it's like now
Hmm.
episode 2, it gave us a lot of backstory just in a different way. And
Hmm.
it was great because we were able to use like the character of Claire as like the catalyst for the audience to like learn about what he can and cannot do. And it was great for him to, like, I feel like so early on, have this person know his identity
Hmm.
under the mask. It's
Yeah,
like, I feel like that doesn't happen
yeah.
oftentimes.
I also feel like just their relationship in general, like over the course of just 6 episodes, I feel like it's already gone through like a full arc, and it's like
Hmm.
so early on. Like I'm excited to see where this character goes. Like I love Claire and I love Rosario Dawson. I love how she is kind of like hesitant about the whole thing. Like she doesn't know whether to trust him or not. But like when she
Yeah.
has to get grit down and dirty, she does. And like she is still like doing what she can to like help. It's this really cool dynamic. And there's also like that sexual tension there that's there,
Hmm.
especially with the fact that like he can only touch her, he can't see her, and he can like feel
Mm.
her. So like there's something about that like. I think of like the love languages and like that physical touch. I think if someone's watching this as like one of those people, like the
Yeah.
physical touch aspect, like they'll really resonate with this kind of relationship because that's all it is. And yeah, it's a really cool relationship that's played out over just these 6 episodes, I guess 5 episodes, because we don't meet her till episode 2. And it already
Hmm.
has so much nuance to that arc, which makes me worried for two things. Either A, they're going to kill her off and it's going to be devastating, or B,
Uh-huh.
they're going to just break up and that's going to be just a plot point because they're already kind of like not together yet. But like
Mm.
I don't know. I think you watched an episode or two after me. We're only stopping at 6 today, but like I don't know what this relationship has in store. I'm almost a little worried because she's a big name, and I didn't even know she was in the show. So like I'm
Mm.
hoping she makes it throughout the show. That's another thing too, is like just not knowing
Yeah.
who else is in the show and who's gonna pop up because I knew obviously Kingpin and Daredevil, but that was about it. So it was really nice seeing all these other faces. But yeah, I'm a big fan of her character for sure, and that second episode is really good. Just those two relationships with her, and then of course with his father is great.
Yeah. Strangely enough, Dill, in my research, I found that early on, his one of his like love interests, like early on in his character's life, is actually Karen Page, the girl that
Oh,
we meet in episode 1,
huh.
who is, framed for murder, who
Right.
seemingly has this, back and forth thing going on with Foggy.
I was gonna say
So,
immediately, like first episode, I was like, "This is Ron and Hermione," because I was like, "This is Ron and Hermione,"
yeah.
because it feels like that. Like it feels like that type of bond and relationship. But I don't know. Maybe she'll end up with him. It's funny because people are gonna watch this and be like, "You don't know this," or "You know this," and
Yeah,
it's gonna
they're
be funny
like,
because
"Oh."
people are probably screaming at their televisions or their laptops now, just like, "Hey guys, yeah, you guys are idiots." But hey, I mean, I don't care. I'm watching it for the first time. I'm enjoying it, and I ship them, so I hope they last. Again, that's another thing in episode 2 that they really did well was just that relationship.
Mhm.
Because I think people going into this would expect the obvious relationship, which is her with Daredevil, with Matt Murdock. But I like how it's kind of the sidekicks are the ones who kind of find that bond. Because Matt Murdock, he's got so many other things to deal with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
As all our superheroes do,
Hmm.
they've got busy schedules. So, moving on in my research, he was taught to like kind of hone his powers and you know really be a practiced blind person, I guess.
Hmm.
He was taught by a martial arts teacher named Stick, like we met
Hmm.
in episode, I don't remember, maybe episode 5. I think it was episode
Interesting.
5.
Yeah, maybe something like
Um,
that.
because
This is where, yeah, this is where it's
the
all a
title
blur to me.
the title of the oh, I have IMDb ready. I can just find it right now.
I
This
was gonna say while you're looking for that, like again with the violence, like I'm just looking at my notes for episode 3, and I'm just like
oh,
that impaling on the stick. I mean, the whole John Healy arc. I mean, the opening scene in that bowling alley scene, that was where I really realized I was like, this is dark. Like I
mhm,
thought it was dark in the episode prior with him throwing the guy off the roof, but now I was like, this is like dark. Like he's smashing his head open with a bowling ball, and then at the end of the episode, it's like you can't go any higher, and they somehow do, and he just like
mm,
sticks his head onto a metal spike. It's like one of those shows where I'm like, I wish Disney gave Marvel a little bit more freedom to do this type of thing, just because it's like
mm,
it just makes it so much more like you said, gritty and just like it makes it feel more natural to the environment. Like it's Hell's
yeah,
Kitchen. Like there's a whole idea that like Daredevil is in Hell's Kitchen, the devil in hell. Like it's not supposed to be this like fun like superhero adventure. It's supposed to be
yeah,
dark, and I wish there was more of that in the MCU. Maybe there will be. Maybe they're taking a note from that, and that's why they're introducing these characters back into the MCU. I'm not sure, but the violence in episode 3 was just like the thing that stood out to me the most because I was like, because we knew the whole episode was kind of like leading up to the reveal of Wilson Fisk, which we've kind of seen him already from Hawkeye, so it didn't carry as much weight to us. But I think just the violence throughout with John Healy, and we kind of get more of the actual lawyer stuff in this one too. I like because it's like that idea of like, oh, we're only gonna like defend the people we know are innocent, but like this will give us more information, so why don't we like investigate this and like help this guy out? And you kind of see him in his element also as a lawyer, Murdoch kind of like feeling the like the heartbeats in the room and trying to like gauge that when he addresses the jury, which I think is just so interesting because
yeah,
it can be a show just about a blind guy fighting crime, but then you add this lawyerly element to it where it's like he's forced to kind of interact with criminals, which just gives another layer. Like I love the combination. You could do a blind superhero, you can do a dark superhero story, and you can do a story about a blind lawyer, and it just happens to combine it all, which is why it's
yeah,
so special.
yeah. He's kind of fighting crime day and night, day in and day out.
That was, yeah, that's the slogan you used, yeah, because it's true. And it's interesting because I think going into this, you expect all the superhero stuff to be like the stuff that stands out the most, but I love seeing him in his element in the law, in the courtroom,
Yeah.
and I hope we get more of that because that was like really exciting to see.
Yeah, one of the aspects of the show that I'm kind of disappointed about, Dill, is the fact
Hmm.
that I feel like he has such a unique way of fighting, and he is like such a combination of so many different styles, like the martial arts and like
Mm-hmm.
and using his senses and all that stuff. But sometimes I just feel like the way that it's shot, and I don't love the way that the fight sequences are shot, and sometimes I'm like, "This scene is, like, too dark." Like, I know we're, like, in an
Like the lighting.
alleyway or,
Mm-hmm.
like yeah, or, like, I know it's nighttime or
Yeah.
whatever, but I feel like sometimes it's just too dark, and I'm like, I like, wanna see, like,
Yeah. I
all the
also think
fight
it's just
choreography
I
happening.
don't know if it has to do with the difference between like just filming for television or filming for film, like also with the budget you get. Like, because I know just
Mhm.
on screen, dark scenes work because you're in a dark movie theater, but I think watching at home, sometimes just the lighting, you
Mm.
have to be able to convey the scene and get the power across no matter what the lighting is with TV. So I don't know if they go for a more like base level. I don't know. I'd love to like look at the behind the scenes of this because I agree it's like a little hard to see. Like the shaky cam sometimes for some of the fights, it comes sometimes gets a little hard to see. But then when the moments where it is right up front, it's like whoa. Like that's why when he does
Yeah.
like decide to just like headbutt the thing and just kill himself. I'm like, oh my god, because it just kind of comes out of nowhere, because it is, like you said, just very dark, and then it's just like boom, head in the middle of the screen. I'm like, wow, like that's crazy. Yeah,
I'm glad you
but
brought
I
that up,
agree.
Dill, because I really wrote down, like, right underneath one of my thoughts was, "Don't kill yourself like that. That was tragic."
Like that, like
I
there's
mean,
a better method.
don't kill yourself, period, but specifically by shoving your
But
eye socket
if you're
into a
going to,
spike.
which we do not obviously recommend, because like life is precious. No, life is beautiful, and it shouldn't. But like to do it that way and make us watch that, whew, that was a lot.
Because it was all because he said the name? Because he gave up Kingpin's name?
Yeah, and I think that honestly kind of makes Kingpin a lot scarier, because the thing is, Kingpin in the comics, you can make him as scary as you want, because you can make him as tall and as big as you want. You can make him punch people and then fly across the room, but because of it's so natural, like the setting
Mhm.
is so natural here, they can't make him seem like kind of supernatural in that sense. So like they need other ways to make him intimidating that isn't just the violence, and we'll get to the Kingpin violence, because there is a scene that is just woof, like really
Mhm.
brutal, and I think
Mhm.
shows that. But leading up to it, you have to really find the menacing nature about Kingpin. You have to kind of get scared of him before you even meet him. And I think the idea that someone that we saw bash someone's head open with a bowling ball, when he gives up the name, gets so freaked out and scared that he impales himself out of fear. I think that only makes Kingpin that much more intimidating when you haven't even met him or seen him. You've only seen the back
Yeah.
of his bald little head. You know, it's like that moment you're like, oh shit, this is really someone you can't mess with. It's like the idea of any mobster thing. You look at Sopranos, the people who are rats and like what they do when like the FBI wants them to rat them out, and seeing the turmoil that they go through, and like they almost
Mm.
have to go to drastic measures, and if they do slip up in front of the one the mob, they get not whacked right away. And it's a similar thing here. It's just now it's like an even worse circumstance, because this guy is not just like a mob guy, but he's also a supervillain. So he can like take your head, dribble it like a basketball, and then just like spin it on his finger and then chuck it 50 yards, because he's a supervillain. He could do that with your head after he decapitates you with a car door. So I think just
Yeah.
that
Brutal.
idea of just like the fear of like giving up someone's name, and just like you're better off dead than living in a world where you just betrayed someone who's dangerous. Like that's scary to me, and I think that's where
Yeah.
like a lot of Kingpin's menace comes from. Because honestly, they make Kingpin out to be, until that car door sequence, he's in this sweet little relationship. He's got like this
Mhm.
this
That's what I was
love,
gonna
and I think
say.
I think it's a great dichotomy, because you need to have both. You need to have the menacing, but also need to make him a character in and of himself.
Sure, yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was interesting meeting Kingpin in this, having already had gotten a taste from him of him in Hawkeye.
Yeah.
That
No,
were
that was the right thing.
not my best
Well,
wording, but
that was the right
we're
thing.
gonna
It's just
move on.
yeah, I just funny, because I just made a thing about him decapitating people, and I'm thinking you said taste of him, and I thought of cannibalism. I watched, listen, Sundance Film Festival.
Dill.
Half of the movies at Sundance Film Festival were about cannibalism, so like it's still on the
It's
brain
just
of like
fresh on the brain.
every
Gotcha.
movie I watch from now on. I'm like, oh, is it gonna have cannibalism in it? But
You
it's
should
obviously
watch
not. But
something like Encanto tonight to just, like,
for the third time,
refresh.
I would do it. Hey, it hit number one. We don't talk about Bruno. Hit number one, first Disney song since Whole New World in 1992 or 1993. Sorry, to hit number one on the Billboard Top 100, which is crazy. Like
Wow.
Let It Go hit number two. We don't talk about Bruno hit number one. So yeah, maybe I will watch Encanto tonight. Maybe, who
Good
knows?
for We
Or
Don't
I'll
Talk
just
About
continue
Bruno.
my How I Met Your Mother binge to cleanse my palate from How I Met Your Father, which is garbage. Anyway,
Gotcha.
continue with the show we're supposed to be talking about here.
It was
We
so
get we get on
interesting.
tangents.
Yeah. It was so interesting to, like, watch this show kinda humanize Kingpin and just
Yeah.
be like, "No, he's just another guy. He's trying to find love, like, be in this, like, cute little relationship," when, like, behind the scenes, like, we know the real Kingpin and
Hmm.
how brutal he can get, and he fully, like, oh my god, what an excessive there's this phrase, like, detectives use, like, in Criminal Minds when they're like, "Oh, it's like, the unsub only had to, like, stab the victim once, but they stabbed the victim a bunch of times, so it was overkill," which usually leads them to
Overkill.
believe
Yeah.
that's literally what it's called. I don't know. I'm not a criminal justice person, but that's the phrase they use in the show. And I'm like, yeah, that killing was the definition of overkill. Like, he kept going 20 times. He
Yeah.
shut that door 20 times more than he needed to.
Yeah. It's like a
And it's
raging
like,
bull. Yeah. It's
yeah. And this
dangerous.
is what I mean about the dark comedy in that is that they do a really fast cut to the guy sitting in the car, just like it's another Saturday afternoon. He's just
Yeah,
like, "Huh, this will be over soon." Like,
and
and it
I think that adds to the menace of Kingpin again, because it's like this guy's
mhm.
just sitting in the car because he knows if he says, "Boss, I think that's a little too much," he's next.
He's
He
next.
just
Yeah.
kind of has to just be like, "Shut up," and just be a little pussy in the back of the car and just be like, "All right, yep, okay, he's just murdering this dude in my car. I'm just gonna
Just
sit
gonna
here and
yeah.
chill,"
Let my
which is
boss
nuts.
do his
Um,
thing.
but did you? Because I know we both seen Spider Verse, so we know there is kind of like a storyline with Kingpin and his like wife and kids. Because like in that movie, he's avenging his wife and kids, I believe. Like,
Mhm.
did you do any research on Kingpin? In regards to this, or do you have anything on him, or are you just kind of letting it
I didn't do any
enjoying the ride?
I was just enjoying the ride, honestly.
Yeah,
'Cause wasn't the whole point of Spider-Verse is that he was using the thing to go back in time to save
yeah, to
his
save his wife and
family,
kids. Yeah. That's
something
why I'm
like that.
interested because I'm wondering if this is the wife that eventually we see him agonizing
Mm.
over in that.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I'm glad you didn't look it up because I don't want to spoil what might eventually inevitably happen to Kingpin. Because I don't know if Hawkeye's supposed to be a continuation or just the same actor cast as a different version of Kingpin, a multiverse thing. I don't know, or if it's
Mm.
supposed to take place after this or before this. I don't know. Probably not before this because he just got shot in Hawkeye. But yeah, like I'm
Right.
interested to see exactly what they do
Well,
with his character because
allegedly.
allegedly, well, he did get shot. Well, yeah, true. We don't know.
We don't know. We don't know
I
who
don't think
got
he
shot.
died, but he got shot. I mean, that's like my I'm hoping it. I'm not hoping, but I'm thinking it's probably what happened in the comics where he gets blinded, which would be interesting because blind Matt Murdock and blind Kingpin, that would be an interesting face off somewhere down the line.
That would be very interesting.
Yeah,
Um, no, I didn't look into Kingpin. I can for next episode because I feel like I should at this point.
yeah, and we'll
But
next
what
episode, just so people know, is the last 7 episodes of the season, so we'll be able to like look at this whole season and look at that in regards to that as well. What were you gonna
but
say,
what
Kels?
I but what I did find interesting in
Mm,
my little skimming of my Marvel
yeah.
encyclopedia was that um one of Matt Murdock's foes, if you will, is Mysterio. So I feel like
Oh,
that could have been like an extra added little layer of why he shows up in No Way Home is because he's like Mysterio,
oh,
this
that's right.
fella.
Oh,
If
and so
I
when
ever
he
see
catches the
that
brick,
cheeky, yeah.
because the brick says Mysterio was right. That he catches.
Well, he can't read.
Oh.
He can't see that it said
No,
that.
I think it's just an Easter egg for the comics fans to be like, "Hey, look."
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, because who knows? I mean, maybe Jake Gyllenhaal, maybe Mysterio faked his own death because of his projections and shit, and maybe like he's actually still out there. Who knows? I mean, they could easily do that because it's Marvel. They can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
that is very true.
Mm,
Here's my thing about this though, Dill, is
yeah.
that I feel like Daredevil is something you should watch more for understanding Kingpin in Hawkeye. To have Matt Murdock show up in No Way Home is troubling to me because of how No Way Home ended. Spoiler
Mm,
alert. He makes it so everyone who's ever met him forgets that he's Spider-Man. So how much more useful is Matt Murdock going to be to Peter Parker being that he no longer knows that Peter Parker exists? I just feel like it was a very weird person to include
yeah.
when now it's not like they're going to ever show up again. Like it's not like Matt Murdock is going to be in the next
Well, maybe he
Spider-Man
will.
movie.
Maybe
I
not
mean,
Spider-Man,
maybe
but maybe that's to say that like now Matt Murdock is definitely a lawyer in in this universe. Like to say like
okay.
in the future he's going to be like a go-to lawyer that they go to because Happy hired him, so Happy knows him. In connection with Happy, and Aunt May died, so like there might be some investigation in that. I would love for like Matt Murdock to be the one who like discovers Peter is Spider-Man again, like the first
Mm,
person, and like they have a little team up or something. Because I like how you brought that up because it's going to be interesting now talking about these characters and like what that could mean for them in the MCU. Because as we know, Kingpin's probably not dead because they didn't show it on screen, and of course Matt Murdock pops in for just a second. But I think that's their way of saying, hey, he's here now. And like he's the lawyer in this neighborhood, so like get
mm.
ready, get excited. I think that was their real use of him was just to get people excited, and because they want the crowd applause. You know, if it was any other lawyer, it
Right.
wouldn't be as satisfying. But yeah, that's interesting because I didn't think
Sure.
about that. Like, what is his role in the Peter story? I don't think he has a role in the Peter story. I think it's more of just like he's now a lawyer and he's in this universe too. So like, strap in, get ready.
Yeah, I guess.
But it also has me a
Just
little worried because
make
I just don't know if these characters, the violence and the style and tone of this show
would
fits within the
fit
MCU,
into the
you know?
MCU.
So I'm
Sure.
wondering because some people that I've heard, I talked at brunch with one of my friends, Victor, about Kingpin because I was like, "Did you like seeing him in Hawkeye?" And he goes, "Yeah, but it was like almost like a toned down version of Kingpin." And obviously, we've only seen this one really brutal scene from Kingpin, but I know it's gonna get more brutal. I know he's like this really really scary guy that like I'm almost worried that like they can't go as far as they should with that character in the MCU. I'm hoping to be proved wrong. Maybe they will just take that step and go darker. Maybe Moon Knight is them saying, "Hey, let's get dark, let's get crazy, let's get twisted." Um,
Mm.
but I don't know. I think of the
Let's
Six
get
Flags ride.
twisted.
Yeah, Bizarro.
Get
um,
twisted.
yeah. Yeah. See,
That
Kelsey
is
knows.
such a niche. That is wait, you unlocked a sense memory when you said that of like the
Yeah,
person talking to the microphone.
a
They're like,
core
yeah, keep
memory.
your eyes get twisted. Like
Yes, no, I remember because most of the childhood trips to Six Flags, you were there. Like it was like the group of us all there, whether it be for just like our friends in high school or like the Panetta kids. Like I was like,
yeah,
this
yeah,
is
yeah.
fun because like I remember just everyone be like, get twisted,
Yeah.
get twisted. Like
Yeah. Yeah, that was literally it. That was literally it. Oh my
for
gosh.
anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about, the Bizarro ride at Six Flags Great Adventure. That is their like strap in your seatbelts, and then they like add the little get twisted at the end because there's a lot of like loops and twists and stuff. So
Yeah,
that's just like a
like
fun little thing that
corkscrews and
just
stuff.
like just popped in my brain when I thought of that.
That's honestly my favorite ride at Six
I
Flags.
know that's why I said it. Yeah, I
Like
don't know what mine would be. I mean, King Ka is always one of those things where I'm terrified of, but then after I finish, I'm like, that was awesome. Let me do it again. But I've only
I've
done it
never
twice in
been
my
on
life.
King Ka.
Yeah, like I just because it's the tallest and I've done it, I should say it's that because it's like no one else, unless you've been there, has
El
gotten the
Toro is
chance.
also very fun.
El Toro's scary though because it's wood. I'm like, if one of these pieces breaks, it's like a
Yeah, but
Lincoln Log Tower. It's all gonna
it's
go
like
down.
all for show, Dill. The actual
Yeah,
roller coaster isn't made of wood. There's
I know,
steel and like,
I
like
know. Yeah,
reinforcements underneath
yeah,
it.
yeah. You know what's not the best? Joker. That coaster, I hate it because it's
Oh,
like
the one that like goes like this?
the cars spin while you're spinning.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't fuck with Joker. Anyway, let's get back to the MCU, not the
Right, right, right.
DCEU.
We went off on a DC tangent here. No
Maybe on
room for
opposite
that.
day. If we ever have a show on April Fool's Day or opposite day, I don't even know if opposite day is an actual national holiday.
National
If we
let me
ever have a
Google
show
it.
on April 1st, I think we should just do a DC podcast just to fuck with everyone. And just everyone be like, wait, what are they doing DC? And
The
don't
only
even tell
thing
it. Just be like, yeah, we're gonna talk about Batman Begins today.
the only thing that I would watch for DC for a DC day would be like the 4-hour Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Okay, I thought you were gonna say something like, "Oh, I'll watch like an episode of Peacemaker," but you're like willing to commit to 4 hours. Okay, sure.
Oh no. I'm not interested in watching Peacemaker because I watched The Suicide Squad
Mhm.
and it was crazy.
Yeah, you were not as big a fan as I
I was
expected you
not
to
as
be.
big a fan. I
I
mean, like
mean,
Margot Robbie was obviously like the highlight. She was the
yeah. Oh
best.
yeah. I mean, King
But
Shark too. Like, he's the Groot. He's the adorable little Groot. I don't know.
oh,
Um,
okay.
hola,
Anyway.
see. Anyway, yeah. Back to Daredevil. I don't even know what episode we're on or what we're talking about. Get us back on track.
Well, I'll tell you something, Dill. Funny
Interesting.
enough, I wrote I wrote
Sorry.
down the ratings for each of the episodes that we watched, 1 through 6, and I'll
Oh, cool.
tell you something. Do you
Like
want to
your
guess?
ratings, your
No,
rankings of it, or
IMDb's ratings for each
oh,
episode out
are
of
they
10.
they're out of
Do you,
10? Okay.
yeah. Do you want to guess what did you see?
No,
Guess
I'm
guess which one do you think is the highest?
well. I bet it's not episode 2 because otherwise, maybe I'm gonna say the pilot. Am I correct?
No.
Okay, is it
It's
episode 6?
actually there's a tie. There's a tie for 2 episodes.
Thank you for not prefacing. Is it 6 and 2?
Yeah, it is.
See, those are my
They
two
bo-
favorites.
They both have 9 out of 10s.
Wow.
The
That's
pilot is
big.
not the lowest rated out of the 6 we watched. The lowest rated is actually episode 3. It has an
Hmm.
8.4.
See, I liked episode 3 because it's like
I liked episode 3 too.
yeah. I think 4 and 5 are kind of a blur right now, but just because I watched them all so close to one another. Which one's 4 and which one's 5? 4 is
4 is the one. All I wrote down for episode 4 was, flirty, Matt and Claire. They got flirty that episode, I guess. And
yeah.
then
I'm trying to think of what exactly that. Oh, that's the one in the hospital.
my notes for episode 5 are Charlie Cox is really good. This has a lot to do with what happens in Hawkeye. That's
Yeah.
what I wrote down.
Yeah, I mean
And
that's the thing is watching so many episodes at once. It's like some of them become a blur, but I definitely
yeah.
remember 6 because it was like the first time they spoke on the phone, and he's kind of like cornered in that little house or whatever in that little
Mhm.
alleyway. But he keeps the one brother alive because he like needs to give the information, which is the one with the car door. I think that might be 4 or 5. I feel like that's 4.
4. Let's just call it 4.
Fisk beheads. Yeah, that was 4. So like I really like the ending of 4. I think 4 is great because it like kind of just kicks it all off with Kingpin in the way I was most satisfied with. Yeah, like that's the thing is like some of these episodes have just great action that like even if I don't remember exactly what goes on in each one, like plot wise, like I think it's good that we're talking about all these episodes kind of together just because like this is the introduction and then we're gonna get like the end of season 1, which is him like becoming Daredevil as we know him in the comics. Because spoiler alert, I looked at the thumbnails on Netflix because I'm dumb, and the 10th episode or the 13th episode is called Daredevil, and it's the thumbnails him in the costume. So we know we're building
Mm,
to that, and I
okay.
can't wait to see exactly how we get from here where we are now, where he's like kind of an enemy. Like people are like not sure whether he's a hero or a
An
villain, and like
anti-hero?
yeah, and like there are people after him, and you know, there's a whole thing with Fisk, but then we know he's gonna get somewhere else. We know he's gonna be around for 2 more seasons. So like
Yeah.
I'm excited to see exactly what ensues. But yeah, we also saw the first date and the explosion that also happened with
Mhm.
Foggy and
Karen.
Karen. Thank you. I'm gonna
You're
get these
welcome.
names by the next one, I promise. But yeah, like their date, like I like their relationship because it's going really slow, but there's an obvious attraction there, and I like how like they
Mhm.
ran into the ex and like that whole dynamic is kind of interesting. I can't wait to see
Mm.
how that plays out. The one storyline that I'm still not 100% sold on yet is like the press stuff, just because like
Mm.
I'm waiting to see exactly what that like the main uh, reasoning behind that and how it ties in. Do you have
Sure.
any thoughts on
They're
that?
probably if I had to take a guess, they're probably gonna get whiff of this, like, mask assailant and, be wondering, "Who is
Yeah,
this person?" Digging around
right.
for his identity and all that
Hmm.
jazz,
Yeah.
which would be
Um,
problematic for Matt Murdock.
Definitely. I mean, yeah, we got to throw some obstacles at him. But yeah, any thoughts on these like last few episodes before we like talk about our predictions for the future, maybe, or just like the idea of this shows and the show in general, our
Well, I
overall
hate to
thoughts.
break it to you, Dill, but we did miss Opposite Day this year. It came early. It was January 25th.
Oh, okay. It was a Tuesday anyway, so it wouldn't have worked. April 1st. That doesn't work either. We'll get there. We'll get it. What is it? January
Wolf
what?
Opposite Day? It was
Hmm.
January 25th.
That's a Wednesday next year. Eventually, our show will line up, and we will do it. Maybe we'll record it because April. It's a Saturday in 2023. I don't want to think that far ahead, but yeah, we will have a DC podcast on Opposite Day someday, for
Okay.
sure.
I love this. I
Yeah,
love how you were like, next year. Oh,
yeah, I'm
season
thinking way
3.
ahead. Thinking way ahead.
I love that. Um, what all I can say, Dill, is that I'm excited. I like this character.
Mhm.
I actually I spoiled something a little bit for you because I brought up his teacher, his like mentor from his childhood named Stick, and that's actually the title of episode 7. So I'm
There you
sorry
go.
about that. But
No, it's okay. It gives me something to
you're
look
gonna meet
forward to.
Stick.
Yeah.
Um and yeah, and he has the classic like avenging the father's death storyline. I loved
Hmm.
how the father had his own thing going on of like being paid to throw matches, and then he was like, "You know what? I'm not going to throw this match. I'm going to do this one like for my son, so he knows that I'm like a winner
Yeah.
or whatever." And unfortunately that is the thing that gets him killed, but
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I really like this series so far. I'm not in the love it camp yet, just because it's like so
Sure.
early and it is setting
Yeah.
stuff up, and I'm still trying to figure out all these characters and what their purposes are and stuff. But I think the law stuff is really cool. I want to kind of see more of that, like just him in the
Mhm.
courtroom using his
Mhm.
sensibilities there. Kind of like how like they had all the storylines with Peter Parker being a photographer in the original Spider-Man movies. Like I like that, seeing them in their day-to-day lives. I
Yeah.
think that's just so fascinating. I can't wait to see what happens with him and Claire. So where are we now with them? They are like they like each other, but she was like, I can't love a man who stands again. Like what is her thing with him? Like is she not vibing with him 100%? Because they finally kissed, but it seems like there's still some hesitancy with their relationship.
Yeah, they hooked up at his apartment,
Hmm.
and
Very
the
briefly.
last the last thing that I saw of well, I mean, they both wanted it to happen because didn't she say something like, "Oh, I was wondering if we were ever gonna do that," or
Yeah, no,
something
she definitely says that,
along
but
those
I
lines?
feel like she says something later about just them being together. I don't know. I'm excited to
Yeah.
see where that goes
But
because I feel
she
like they've
also
already been through so much.
She also seems to have, like, a disgruntled past, though, as well, because when they first
Hmm.
meet each other, she's like, "Listen, like, I won't ask you any questions if you don't ask me any questions." And it's kinda
Yeah,
like, "Well, what's going on there, Claire?
right, and I can't wait
Please
to
share
find
with the
out. Yeah,
class."
because I think like
Yeah.
Karen and Foggy are really great side characters, but I think Claire's gonna be the one that we're really gonna get like a lot from. Like she seems like one of the most compelling characters for sure.
Mhm.
Even more so than like even Wilson Fisk, who I also really just love all that stuff with Wilson and like the girl and like you kind of see the
Mhm.
humanized version of him. Like it's stuff that we didn't get in Hawkeye because it was so rushed with only one episode to introduce and kill off Wilson Fisk. It's like there's only so
Sure,
much you
yeah.
can do, and they definitely showed his physical strength, but they didn't really show a lot of the other stuff yet. So I like that this show's doing that. But yeah, my favorite character is definitely Matt. Like you said
Mhm.
earliest in the podcast, like 40 minutes ago, you were like, yeah, no, he's a great character, and I agree. I think the show really hinges on like his performance and his character, and such a different character. Like like you said, the dark humor, but like just like very matter of fact, but also just like really good at what he does, but also like a little not reckless, but he's doing bad things in some people's eyes. It's gonna be interesting to see how he gets away with it or not.
Yeah.
Which is gonna be the most compelling part of the show for sure.
But he does make an effort. He makes a point to never kill someone.
That's right. Yeah, he says
He's not a killer.
yeah, he's like I pushed him off the building. He didn't die though, and it's like true. I mean, I think that's another thing about these Marvel superheroes. The reason I like No Way Home so much is because it was focused on the idea of saving rather than killing,
Yeah.
which is something that I feel like the MCU sometimes loses track of, especially considering Endgame is literally and Infinity War is literally about snapping away a whole population of people. Yeah, so it's like
Yeah.
it's a cool idea that like it's about you know not killing and just like getting due diligence on people. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Honestly, that whole rooftop, like, sequence was one of my
Hmm.
favorites in the show. It was definitely a
Yeah.
standout because it was, like, him, like, doing his Daredevil thing, and then, like, Claire in the background just, like, with her, like, white hood on, just trying to, like, look
What?
intimidating, like, whatever. And it was such an interesting way to, like, see our quote unquote hero, try to get information out of someone. He strung this guy up and now he's digging through his eye
Mhm.
trying to like get him to talk. And
Yeah.
then at the end he's like, to hell with
Yeah.
you, whatever,
It's
pushes him
also
off
just so
the
interesting because
cliff
the whole time
building.
he can't see, and it's like that's the part I keep like coming back to. I'm like, how is he doing this? I can't even get around my apartment at night to get to my room to my bathroom because it's so dark. I trip over
Yeah.
3 boxes on the way to the bathroom just to wash my hands because it's like tripping in the middle of the night is tough for me. And like this guy fights crime where everything's black and
Yeah.
visionless. I'm like, how does he do it? You know?
His radar sense still. That is just
Yeah.
something you do not have in the dark.
Yeah. So, moral of the story is, kids, pee before you go to sleep, and if you wake up in the middle of the night, use a flashlight to get to your bathroom because no one's Matt Murdock, and he's the only one who could do it without getting a bumper bruise. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
He's
Any
an
last thoughts about this? I mean, this is a good opening. I'm excited to see where this goes, especially since we're gonna
yeah.
have 5 more episodes devoted to the show because we really want to like explore it in its depth. But we thought, doing one episode at a time, that'd be 39 whole episodes, which would be like a whole year's worth of episodes, and we don't have that time because Moon Knight's coming up. So we're like, how can we do this
Mhm.
the best way? And that
Yeah.
splitting the seasons in half seems to be good because it's a good chunk of episodes. We get a good amount to talk about.
We're really squeezing in as much as we can.
Yeah,
Um in my research still, I found that along with, one of his foes being Mysterio, that his kind of like main arch nemesis, actually, they literally use the term arch nemesis, arch nemesis, is the name of someone named Bullseye. So I'm excited to see if this person makes an appearance
And
in
what was the last
in this
shot of
show.
Hawkeye, huh? It was them trying to figure out what her name was going to be, and it zoomed in on the bullseye. I'm just saying, could we see Kate Bishop square off against Matt Murdock? No, I want to see them team up. I don't know. I don't know. I'm kidding. But who knows?
Being that this took place in 2015, I don't think Haley Steinfeld is making an appearance in
No, not in.
Daredevil.
I'm saying vice versa.
Oh,
Like
you mean like in the
season two.
future?
Yeah. Because
Okay.
like Bullseye does fight Daredevil. Maybe there's a future where like I don't know. Kate
Well,
Bishop
wasn't
goes
Hawkeye a
against.
miniseries? I don't think we're getting a season 2 of Hawkeye.
No, but we could get like a future series about Kate and
Yeah,
Yelena or
that's
something
true.
called like Black Widow and Hawkeye or something like that, like a play on Falcon and
Yeah,
Winter Soldier, and it's the
sure.
new Black Widow in Hawkeye, or there'll be a show called Bullseye. That's the thing is like they're mini series, but like if you wanted to do a whole another series about Wanda exploring her grief, you could just do like Wanda back at back in television or something like some weird thing like back in action or some shit like that. Such a
Yeah.
terrible title, but like and just make a season 2. That's what I thought they were gonna do with Loki, but they're actually making it Loki season 2 rather than calling it something else. But like, there are 3 Ant-Man movies. There can be a second Hawkeye series. It's just not season 2, but it's like its own series. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
I hope we see more Daredevil and Kingpin in the MCU because I like their characters. But who knows? Maybe by the
No,
end of this, I'll
yeah.
be like, I'm sick of them. Keep them in here. But right now, I like them. I like them as
I like
characters.
them a lot. It was just a very interesting choice. I mean, I guess it was kind of the right choice being that they're both in New York to have him, show
Hmm.
up in No Way Home just for him to not know who Peter is by the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Just a very interesting choice.
Yeah, that's a very interesting choice. Yeah. Anything else from your research? Any last thoughts on Daredevil episodes 1 through 6? I can't believe we're already done, kind of like breezing through these episodes. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot that happened, but also so much that's just setting up for more to happen. I'm sure as it goes on, we'll have
Yeah.
even more and more to talk about, just because this is very ground level introductory exposition stuff, which is not bad. I think you need it, and in a show like this, you have the time to actually do it. You have the time to explore exposition and not just cram it all into one episode like some of these other shows do. So.
Like I said about his main arch nemesis. Oh, I'm having a difficult
Anemone,
time with that.
anemone, ominous.
Anemone. Oh, thank you. The bane of my existence, the word ominous.
You just
I
said it
actually
perfectly.
I think I just killed it actually when I said it
Yeah,
in that sentence.
documented here.
It'll never happen again.
Yeah,
Don't
everyone.
get used to it.
51 minutes and 30 seconds. Kelsey said ominous correctly. Never
For the
again will she ever get it right.
first and only time in my life. But his main romantic interest, I found, seems to be this character of Electra, the daughter of
Oh,
the Greek ambassador for in the US. So maybe we'll also see
interesting.
an Electra character pop up throughout this series. Who knows?
And I think it's worth noting if we ever have time down the line, in the early 2000s, they made a Daredevil movie and an Elektra movie. The Daredevil movie was a Ben Affleck movie, and it was very bad, according to ratings. I haven't seen it, but it was very bad. And they made an Elektra movie
Bad.
starring my birthday buddy, Jennifer Garner, also born on April 17th. And that was also trash, according to critics. So it'll be interesting. Maybe someday we can watch those two movies and watch and see if they really are trash or if they're endearingly underrated.
Yeah,
But it'll be
maybe.
interesting because especially if Elektra does show up in Daredevil, even if she doesn't, I think it'd be kind of fun to go back and watch like some of these old 2000s, like Fantastic Four and Ghost Rider and all these like pre-MCU movies. I think it'd be interesting.
Oh
Kels, do you
my
have a
god,
birthday
this is
buddy? Do you have like a birthday person that you share a birthday with that you like? Like
like a
mine is Jennifer
celebrity?
Garner. Yeah, like mine's Jennifer Garner, and like it's fitting because 13 Going on 30 is my favorite rom com, and she's great in those commercials that air like all the time. Do you have a birthday buddy? Do you know
Yes, I share a birthday with Cara Delevingne.
who is in the Suicide Squad, the old one? So that's interesting.
Yes.
Well, interesting full circle. Cara Delevingne. Haven't seen a lot of her lately. Hope she's all right.
I think she's doing great. I saw a
Yeah.
house tour she did for
Ah.
architect
Oh
architectural
gosh.
died.
Ominous.
I'm having a
Ominous.
hard time.
Ominous. Um.
I'm having a hard time speaking tonight. It's late, okay? Dill,
Yeah.
you've kept me
Let's
up
wrap it
past
up.
my bedtime.
Let's wrap it up. Any
She
last
seems
thoughts,
to be
Kels?
doing go.
Any
Going
last
well.
thoughts?
Um, no. Oh my god, I also share a birthday with Cecil B. DeMille.
Oh, wow, one of the best directors of all time. Yeah, one of the
Also
OGs.
also Casey Affleck.
Okay, one of the
Uh,
best actors of the last 10 years. Yeah, Manchester by the Sea, great film.
I got curious, so I had to Google it. And that's the only person. Oh, Keith Stanfield.
Oh, Lakeith Stanfield? Nice.
Yeah, but it just says Keith. I don't know if
Yeah,
that's it.
he goes by either, I think. That's awesome. Another great one. Let me see who else is born on April 17th. Victoria Beckham, Rooney Mara, great, married to uh Joaquin Phoenix, right? I think
Yeah,
so.
maybe.
Yeah, but she was in a movie with Casey Affleck, which is crazy. Adam McKay, director of the Best Picture nominee, Don't Look Up. It has not been nominated yet,
Mm.
but I'm sure it'll be nominated tomorrow because Oscar nominations are tomorrow. Go check out my video where I break down the nominations. Sean Bean, the guy who dies in everything, including Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones. Yeah, good group of people on April 17th. That's a fun group.
Yeah, she is married to Joaquin Phoenix.
There you go. There's my trivia. Like, see, the trivia I know is like mindless celebrity shit. I need to know like details, like what color was the coffee mug in The Usual Suspects. Like that's what I need to know. Anyway, speaking of trivia, we're gonna have more trivia down the line. I've got some competitors almost lined up, and then I'll figure out with Kelsey and them when we can schedule because I want to try to get one a month, one episode a month, which might be 2 matches per episode. Like I'm really trying to get this trivia thing going. So if you have friends that you think can compete in trivia, if you yourself think your game for trivia, the regular season matches are going to be easier than the title matches. But again, if you keep winning the regular season matches, you'll have to go up against Kelsey in the hard title matches. So, choose wisely if you decide to enter. But we'd love to see you in the ring. We'd like to see some daredevils of your own come and face off against each other to get a shot at Kelsey for the title.
Enter at your own risk.
Fisk, see, rhymed that. Ooh, yeah,
Wow.
making a lot of connections with Daredevil. But yeah, we're gonna be covering Daredevil episodes 7 through 13 next week, which is a lot of episodes to watch from now to then. But we got it. I'm gonna pace myself better this time because I watched all 6 episodes in the span of 2 days, which was a mistake.
So we're
So
finishing season 1, correct?
yeah, that'll be it.
Yeah, okay,
We're gonna be
cool.
done with season 1,
Cool.
and then we're moving on to season 2, where we'll see him and another Marvel comic book classic hero, the Punisher, anti-hero, he who's in season 2. I know that because of the poster on Netflix. Again, Netflix gives away so much, even though they really don't. But it's just
Mm.
But yeah, that's what's happening on the podcast. Kelsey, do you want to plug anything? Any new videos perhaps on your channel lately?
Yes.
Ooh,
I'm
tell us
posting
about it.
again on my YouTube channel,
Yeah.
Cause Productions. I'm doing a series with my dear friend Lily, called Heidi and Lola, and it's basically just shorts about how weird it is being in your early 20s. So if you're in your early 20s and if you're a woman in your early 20s, you'll probably relate to most of the things we have to
Yeah,
say
I was gonna say
about that.
I'm half of that, so like I could definitely relate
You're
to half of
halfway there.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
I
Other
got the
than
toys
that,
thing down. I don't have the woman thing down yet, but
gotcha.
yeah.
It's fine. You don't
Yeah.
have to.
Yeah,
If even if
it's a great series already. I know it's only been one episode, but I'm very excited. Congrats,
Thank you.
and you and Lil. I love seeing you guys acting again.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah,
so
we've been missing it. So I was
yeah.
like
Oh, of
I
course.
texted her one day. I was like, "Lily, let's just act. Let's just do
Yeah.
the thing together."
Yeah. So excited.
But other than my YouTube channel, you can follow me on Instagram at Kelsey A. Kilpatrick, or you can follow me on TikTok, which I post on the most frequently out of all my
I
social
was gonna
media
say, yeah, you've been
at
like really going
Cos13.
with Cos 13 lately.
Cause you know what? I've just come to the conclusion that like I just need to not care. Like I used to stress like so much about like when I was gonna post a TikTok and what it was gonna be. Now I'm just like posting for fun, and it's like way
Yeah.
better.
Yeah, I started doing that too. Like originally I was just kind of posting like really nice music videos that I spent hours on editing and like cooking videos. And now I'm just like fuck it, and I made a TikTok singing therapy from Tick Tick Boom on there last night, and I was like that's fun. Just to put
Yeah,
it out there. So
totally.
yeah, follow me Dylan Randazzo 417. I'm gonna bring more of those videos, more fun stuff, and just like maybe showing some clips of this podcast or other things from my channel just to get people watching because we want all the eyes. We want to grow this year. My goal is like 500 subscribers minimum. Like, and I plan on going even further. Like, that's my goal, and I'm gonna try to stick to it. Dill Pickle Movie Network. If you're watching, thank you for watching. If you're listening, thank you for listening. But please go watch. All my videos will soon be on podcast for you to listen to any of the videos, including reviews, Picture This, all these other shows that I do. But this is the first and OG podcast on my channel, and it has its own feed. So go subscribe to it, give us 5 stars. Thank you to everyone who has given great ratings and given great word of mouth reviews and just commented on these videos. Commenting helps get visibility. Subscribing is the main thing to get us to that monetization level so we can all earn some nice money for the hard work, especially her, because she does a lot of prep, especially for trivia. Just I cannot watch Eternals or Civil War or Guardians like 7 times a week like she does, but but still,
All
like,
right.
we put a lot of time into this. Not because those are bad movies, just they're just long. They're long movies. So
No,
like,
I'm just saying you make it seem like I don't have a life.
no, you have a life, and you're devoted to the life of the MCU. It's a great life to be devoted to. No, but yeah, help us grow this channel because it'd be really fun. And help her grow hers because what is it called again? Delilah
Hi-
and
Heidi and Lola.
Heidi and Lola. Why did I get
Very
Delilah?
close.
Heidi. I was thinking Lola, Delilah. I don't know.
You
Help that
combine them
channel.
somehow.
Help that channel and that show grow as well. And check
Thank
me
you.
out at Dylan_Randazzo on Twitter. I am in the midst of Oscar stuff, so I posted my nomination predictions, and I will be reacting tomorrow at 5 a.m. when the Oscars are announced, the Oscar nominations. I'll be there with my coffee in hand, reacting to those nominations, and I cannot wait to be so wrong or so right. So stay
Wow,
tuned for that
Dill.
video.
So you got to get to
Coming.
bed. If you're going to be up
Well,
at
it's
5 a.m.
technically Tuesday morning, but you will be seeing this Monday.
Oh,
Yeah, so
right. You're
technically
right.
I have an extra. I have like 36 hours. So but yeah,
Nice.
it's gonna be fun. I can't wait to wake up early because I have a dentist appointment that day too. So I'm gonna just like go to Jersey because I have to go to the dentist in Jersey. Go to Jersey, get home, get a coffee, watch the Oscars, go to my dentist appointment, then come back to the city and sleep, and then cry because Kristen Stewart doesn't get nominated. I know it's happening, and I'm sad because she deserves to win. Anyway,
For
Spencer.
Spencer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, she gives one of the best performances I've ever seen. But maybe she'll get nominated. I'll be happy anyway. But yeah, check that out. I've rambled too far. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.